The grand chamber of the Galactic Council shimmered with an ethereal glow, its walls lined with crystalline panels that refracted light into cascading rainbows. Representatives of countless alien species sat in tiered rows, their forms ranging from humanoid to utterly alien, some floating on anti-gravity platforms, others communicating through holographic avatars. At the center of it all stood Admiral Kale Voss, his broad shoulders squared and his jaw clenched tight beneath the weight of judgment. Humanity had come so far since first contact nearly 2 centuries ago, from primitive explorers barely capable of leaving their home system. They had risen to become one of the youngest members of the Galactic Council, a coalition of advanced civilizations tasked with maintaining peace, regulating technology, and fostering cooperation across the stars. But now, after decades of proving themselves worthy, humanity faced expulsion. The charges were grave: violation of sacred galactic laws by experimenting with forbidden technologies. Admiral Voss glanced toward Dr. Alara Quinn, who sat silently beside him. Her sharp features were pale, her hands clasped tightly together as if trying to hold herself together. It was her work, a groundbreaking project involving artificial intelligence capable of manipulating space-time, that had brought them here. The Council accused her invention of being unstable, uncontrollable, and potentially catastrophic. To the assembled representatives, humanity's actions represented recklessness, arrogance, and greed. Admiral Voss intoned Counselor Zyron, his elongated head tilting forward like a snake preparing to strike. His voice carried no trace of emotion, only cold authority. Your species has been given every opportunity to demonstrate maturity and responsibility within this council. Yet, you persist in pursuing paths explicitly forbidden by our laws. Voss swallowed hard but kept his gaze steady. Counselor Zyron, with respect, humanity has always sought to contribute to the greater good of the galaxy. Our advancements have brought innovation and progress, not just for us but for others as well. Zyron's luminous eyes narrowed. Innovation? Progress? You call tampering with the fabric of reality progress? Your experiments threaten to unravel the delicate balance we have worked millennia to maintain. A murmur rippled through the chamber, some voices echoing agreement, others skepticism. Voss knew he was fighting an uphill battle. Many of the older species viewed humanity as impulsive children, too eager to play with forces they didn't fully understand. But deep down he also sensed something else, a fear. Fear of what humanity might achieve if left unchecked. Counselors, Voss began again, raising his voice slightly to command attention. We acknowledge the risks inherent in exploration. Every great leap forward carries uncertainty. But does that mean we should stop reaching for the stars? Does that mean we should abandon the pursuit of knowledge simply because it challenges the status quo? His words hung in the air, met with silence. Then, one by one, the representatives cast their votes. Each glowing orb ascending from the council, floor signaled humanity's fate. By the time the final vote was tallied, there was no doubt. Humanity would be stripped of its membership and banished to the outer rim of the galaxy, a lawless expanse teeming with danger and isolation. As the verdict was announced, Voss felt a surge of anger and shame, not for himself, but for the billions back on Earth who had placed their trust in him. He turned to leave, pausing only briefly to meet Zyron's unblinking stare. There was something in those cold, calculating eyes that unsettled him. Something more than disdain or superiority. Whatever it was, Voss vowed to uncover it. Hours later, aboard the human flagship Eclipse, Voss stared out at the vast expanse of stars beyond the viewport. The ship hummed softly around him, its crew working tirelessly to prepare for departure. They were heading to the outer rim, where humanity would be forced to carve out a new existence among ruins and rogues. Dr. Quinn approached quietly, her footsteps muffled against the metallic deck. She hesitated before speaking. Kale, I'm sorry. He turned to face her, his expression softening. Ilara, none of this is your fault. You followed your instincts as a scientist. If anything, it's the Council's fault for stifling discovery. But they're right about one thing, she said, her voice trembling. What if my research really does pose a threat? What if I've unleashed something we can't control? Voss placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Then we'll find a way to fix it together. We've faced worse odds before, haven't we? Quinn nodded, though doubt lingered in her eyes. She excused herself and retreated to her quarters, leaving Voss alone with his thoughts. Despite his outward confidence, he couldn't shake the feeling that the Council's decision wasn't solely about their alleged transgressions. Something bigger was at play, something they hadn't revealed. The journey to the Outer Rim took weeks, during which tensions simmered among the crew. Some believed humanity deserved better. Others questioned whether they truly belonged in the galactic community. As the eclipse entered the desolate region known as the Fringe, the stark contrast between the central systems and their new home became painfully clear. Planets here were barren wastelands, scarred by eons of neglect and exploitation. Rogue AI colonies roamed freely, remnants of failed experiments abandoned by their creators. Pirates and scavengers ruled the skies, preying on anyone foolish enough to venture too close. And yet, amidst the chaos, there were whispers of ancient civilizations, long extinct species whose secrets lay buried beneath layers of dust and debris. It was on one such planet, designated Erebus Prime, that humanity chose to make its stand. Scouts reported traces of habitable zones and resources sufficient to sustain a colony. More importantly, scans detected strange energy signatures emanating from nearby ruins, signatures that matched patterns associated with the very technology Quinn had been developing. Upon landing, Voss addressed the survivors gathered in the makeshift settlement. "This isn't the end," he declared, his voice resonating with conviction. "It's a new beginning. We may have been cast out, but we will rise again. Not as supplicants begging for scraps, but as masters of our own destiny." Cheers erupted from the crowd, though not everyone shared his optimism. Quinn watched silently from the sidelines, her mind racing. Earlier that day, she and her team had explored the ruins and uncovered fragments of what appeared to be an ancient superweapon. Its design bore eerie similarities to her own research, suggesting that humanity's discoveries might not have been entirely original. That night, as the camp settled into uneasy rest, Quinn pored over data logs in her tent. Images of intricate machinery flickered across her screen, accompanied by cryptic inscriptions in a language long forgotten. One phrase repeated itself over and over. "To reshape reality is to wield eternity." Her fingers hovered above the keyboard, hesitating. Activating even a fragment of the device could unlock untold power, or unleash devastation. Yet the possibility of redemption, for herself, for humanity, gnawed at her resolve. Outside, the wind howled across the desolate landscape, carrying with it echoes of a past civilization's glory and ruin. Somewhere in the distance, a faint glow pulsed from the heart of the ruins, beckoning her closer. Little did she know her decision would set humanity on a path toward either salvation or annihilation. Banished from the Council, humanity returned as its master part 2. Survival. The windswept plains of Erebus Prime stretched endlessly, a desolate expanse of cracked earth and jagged rocks under a perpetually overcast sky. The colony's makeshift shelters clustered around the landing site of the eclipse, forming what some optimistically called New Dawn. It was less a beacon of hope than a fragile outpost clinging to survival against overwhelming odds. Humanity had been cast into exile, but that didn't mean they were alone. Erebus Prime harbored dangers both natural and manufactured, hostile wildlife, extreme weather patterns, and remnants of an ancient alien civilization whose ruins loomed like silent sentinels across the landscape. And then there were the pirates. Scavengers and mercenaries roamed the Fringe, preying on anyone foolish enough to settle in such a lawless region. For Admiral Cale Voss and his people, every day was a battle, not just for resources, but for their very existence. Internal strifes. Weeks turned into months. Fractures began to form within the colony. Not everyone shared Voss's vision of unity and resilience. Some factions argued for isolationism, believing humanity should focus solely on surviving rather than challenging the council or exploring dangerous ruins. Others advocated aggressive expansion, calling for raids on pirate strongholds and neighboring settlements to secure supplies. Among the dissenters was Commander Jarek Hale, a pragmatic but ruthless officer who questioned Voss's leadership. "We're dying out here, Kale," he said during one heated council meeting. "If we don't take what we need, we'll starve before the year is out." Voss slammed his fist on the table, his patience wearing thin. "And if we turn into raiders, we become no better than the pirates, or worse, the council. We have to hold on to our principles. That's what separates us from them." Hale sneered. "Principles won't fill empty stomachs or keep the lights on. You want to play hero? Fine, but don't expect me to follow blindly." Despite these tensions, Voss remained steadfast. He knew morale was fragile, and any sign of weakness could fracture the colony beyond repair. To rally his people, he organized work crews to fortify defenses, establish farming domes, and salvage materials from abandoned ships. Slowly, New Dawn began to resemble something more than a desperate camp. It became a fledgling society determined to endure. Discoveries in the ruins. While Voss focused on survival, Dr. Ilara Quinn immersed herself in the ruins surrounding the Yao settlement. Her team uncovered increasingly advanced artifacts buried beneath layers of time and decay. The energy signatures they detected grew stronger with each expedition, drawing them deeper into the labyrinthine structures. One evening, after hours of painstaking analysis, Quinn made a breakthrough. A fragment of machinery pulsed faintly in her lab, its surface etched with intricate patterns that shifted when touched. She hesitated, then activated it using a modified interface based on her earlier research. The room filled with a low hum as holographic projections materialized, a map of the galaxy overlaid with glowing nodes. One node, marked by a pulsating red core, hovered near the galactic center, the location of the Council's capital. Another node glowed brightly near Erebus Prime itself, indicating the presence of additional fragments scattered across the planet. Quinn's heart raced. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just an ancient weapon. It was a network capable of manipulating space-time on a galactic scale. If fully assembled, it could reshape reality itself. But alongside excitement came dread. Who had created this technology? Why had it been abandoned? And most importantly, what would happen if someone, like the Council, got their hands on it? She reported her findings to Voss, who listened intently despite his exhaustion. "This changes everything," he said finally. "If we can harness this power, we might stand a chance against the Council. But if word gets out, we'll be hunted down like animals." Quinn nodded grimly. "I know the risks, but I also know we can't ignore this. It's too important. For humanity, and maybe for the entire galaxy. Alliances and enemies. Word of New Dawn's establishment spread quickly through the fringe, attracting attention from both allies and adversaries. Rogue AI colonies, once feared as mindless killing machines, proved surprisingly cooperative when approached diplomatically. Their leader, a sentient construct named Solus 7, offered assistance in exchange for access to Quinn's technological expertise. "We are relics of a forgotten age," Solus 7 explained during negotiations. "Like you, we seek purpose. Together, we may uncover truths long buried." Meanwhile, human scouts encountered other exiled groups, species banished by the Council for reasons similar to humanity's. Among them were the Velkari, amphibious beings whose homeworld had been destroyed by Council-sanctioned mining operations. Initially wary, the Velkari eventually agreed to trade food and medical supplies in exchange for protection from pirate attacks. These alliances bolstered New Dawn's strength, but they also drew unwanted attention. Pirates launched repeated raids on the settlement, testing its defenses and probing for weaknesses. During one particularly brutal assault, Commander Hale led a counterattack that drove the invaders back, but at great cost. Dozens of colonists perished and portions of the settlement lay in ruins. Afterward, Hale confronted Voss again, blood still staining his armor. You see now? Strength is the only currency out here. If we don't strike first, we'll end up dead. Though conflicted, Voss recognized the truth in Hale's words. Survival required not just resilience but adaptability, and sometimes ruthlessness. Still, he refused to abandon his ideals entirely. We fight when we must, he replied. But we build bridges whenever possible. That's how we'll win, not just battles but hearts and minds. A taste of power. The turning point came when Quinn successfully integrated a second fragment of the superweapon into her prototype. Activating it unleashed a controlled burst of energy that temporarily stabilized the colony's failing power grid. For the first time in months, lights burned brightly across New Dawn, and warmth returned to cold habitats. Cheers erupted among the colonists, but Quinn felt only unease. The weapon's potential was undeniable, yet so were its dangers. Each activation brought glimpses of its true capabilities. Visions of planets reshaped, stars extinguished, civilizations erased. She confided her fears to Voss, who reassured her as best he could. You're not alone in this, he said firmly. Whatever happens next, we face it together. But remember why we're doing this. To protect humanity, not destroy it. Whispers of betrayal unknown to the colonists. Their activities had not gone unnoticed. Counselor Zirin monitored their progress through covert surveillance drones deployed throughout the fringe. His expression betrayed no emotion as he reviewed footage of the superweapon's activation. The humans grow bolder, he murmured to himself. Perhaps too bold. Zirin's concerns extended beyond humanity's resurgence. The fragments Quinn unearthed belonged to the Etherians, an ancient race rumored to possess godlike powers. Their return had long been prophesied, and now, humanity's meddling risked awakening forces even the Council couldn't control. For the first time, doubt crept into Ziran's calculations. Had the Council underestimated these reckless upstarts? Or were they merely pawns in a larger game, one neither side truly understood? With their newfound alliances, technological advancements, and growing confidence, humanity took its first steps toward reclaiming its place among the stars. But as Dr. Quinn gazed at the pulsating core of the superweapon, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing with fire. The question wasn't whether they could master its power, but whether they should. Banished from the Council, humanity returned as its master. Part 3. Ascension. The Outer Rim was no longer a place of despair for humanity. It had become a crucible of transformation. New Dawn had grown from a fragile settlement into a thriving hub of innovation and defiance. The ruins of Erebus Prime yielded more fragments of the ancient superweapon, each one bringing humanity closer to unlocking its full potential. But with every step forward, Admiral Cale Voss and Dr. Ilara Quinn were reminded of the immense responsibility and peril that came with wielding such power. Humanity's ascension began not with conquest, but with unity. Word of their survival and defiance spread across the fringe, inspiring other exiled groups and oppressed species to rally under their banner. Together they formed the New Dawn Coalition, a patchwork alliance united by a shared desire to overthrow the oppressive Galactic Council. Forging the coalition, Admiral Voss stood atop a makeshift platform in the heart of New Dawn, addressing a gathering of representatives from dozens of species. Behind him loomed the skeletal remains of an ancient Etherian structure, now repurposed as the Coalition's command center. His voice carried over the crowd, amplified by speakers salvaged from pirate raids. For too long we've been cast aside, silenced, and exploited by those who claim to rule the galaxy, Voss declared. His words met with cheers and roars of approval. But today we stand together, not as victims but as warriors for justice. Together we will dismantle the Council's tyranny and build a new order where all voices are heard. Among the attendees was Sola 7, the leader of the rogue AI colonies, whose glowing eyes scanned the assembly with calculated precision. Beside him sat Velkari delegates, their sleek, amphibious forms shimmering faintly in the dim light. Other factions included scavenger clans, exiled scientists, and even defectors from within the Council's ranks. Dr. Quinn watched silently from the sidelines, her mind racing. She had spent months deciphering the superweapon's mechanisms, piecing together fragments of knowledge left behind by the Etherians. What she uncovered was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The weapon wasn't merely a tool of destruction, it was a key to reshaping reality itself. Entire star systems could be reconfigured, civilizations rewritten, timelines altered. The implications were staggering. As the meeting concluded, Voss approached Quinn, his expression serious. "How close are we to activating the core?" She hesitated before answering. "Close enough to make a difference, but not without risks. Every fragment we integrate increases the strain on the system. If we push too far too fast, it could destabilize everything." Voss nodded grimly. "Then we'll use what we have wisely. For now, let's focus on rallying our allies and striking back at the Council." Strategic strikes under Voss's leadership. The New Dawn Coalition launched a series of coordinated attacks against Council outposts scattered throughout the fringe. These targets were chosen carefully. Each strike aimed to cripple supply lines, disrupt communications, and expose the Council's corruption to the galaxy at large. One such operation took place near the edge of the Galactic Arm, where a heavily fortified mining facility extracted rare minerals used to fuel Council warships. The Coalition's fleet, consisting of retrofitted human vessels and ships donated by allied species, descended upon the outpost under cover of darkness. Commander Hale led the ground assault, his tactical brilliance turning what should have been a suicide mission into a decisive victory. Within hours, the facility was secured, its resources seized, and its workers, many of whom were enslaved laborers, freed. Footage of the operation was broadcast across the galaxy, further eroding public trust in the Council. Back at New Dawn, celebrations erupted as news of the victory spread. Yet amidst the jubilation, tensions simmered. Some factions within the Coalition argued for immediate retaliation against the Council's capital, while others urged caution. Voss walked a tightrope between these opposing forces, striving to maintain cohesion without sacrificing momentum. Councillor Zyron's Gambit. Within the gleaming spires of the Council's capital, Councillor Zyron observed humanity's progress with mounting unease. Holographic displays projected maps of Coalition-controlled territories, each expanding like wildfire. Reports indicated that humanity's technological advancements rivaled, even surpassed, those of older, established species. Zyron convened an emergency session with the remaining Council members. "Humanity poses an existential threat," he stated bluntly. "Their rapid adaptation and mastery of forbidden technologies suggest they may soon challenge us directly. We must act decisively, or risk losing control entirely." Several councillors balked at the suggestion of preemptive strikes, citing the potential backlash from neutral species. Others voiced concerns about humanity's mysterious superweapon, which Zyron had kept largely hidden from his peers. The debate grew heated, revealing fractures within the Council itself. Determined to prevent disaster, Zyron initiated a secret plan. He dispatched elite operatives to infiltrate New Dawn and sabotage the Coalition's efforts. Simultaneously, he ordered increased surveillance of the Etherian ruins, fearing humanity might uncover truths best left buried. The core fragment, despite Zyron's machinations, humanity continued to advance. During a daring expedition deep into uncharted territory, Dr. Quinn and her team discovered a critical fragment of the superweapon embedded in the heart of an ancient temple. Unlike previous pieces, this one radiated an almost sentient energy, responding to Quinn's touch with pulsating waves of light. "This is it," she whispered, awestruck. The final component needed to activate the core. Transporting the fragment back to New Dawn proved perilous. Pirate ambushes and environmental hazards tested the team's resolve, but they persevered. Upon arrival, Quinn immediately set to work integrating the fragment into the prototype. As the last connection clicked into place, the chamber filled with a deafening hum, and the air shimmered with ethereal energy. For a brief moment, Quinn glimpsed the superweapon's true potential, a vision of infinite possibilities, stars aligned, Planets shifted, timelines converged. It was beautiful and horrifying. Voss entered the lab just as Quinn deactivated the system, her face pale with exhaustion. "Did it work?" he asked. "It worked," she replied softly. "But I don't think we're ready for what comes next." A stark, choice news of humanity's acquisition of the core fragment reached the Council, sparking panic among its members. Siren revealed his ultimate gambit. He intended to activate the superweapon himself, believing it necessary to prevent the return of the Etherians. In his view, humanity's rise was merely a precursor to something far greater, a cosmic reckoning that only he could avert. Meanwhile, Voss faced a stark choice: use the superweapon to launch a final assault on the Council's capital, or seek another path, one rooted in diplomacy rather than destruction. Quinn urged restraint, warning that activating the weapon fully could unleash consequences beyond comprehension. "If we do this," she said, "we risk becoming everything we fought against. Is that really the legacy you want to leave behind?" Voss stared at her, torn between vengeance and vision. Finally, he made his decision. March toward destiny with. The superweapon partially activated, the New Dawn Coalition embarked on its most ambitious campaign yet, an assault on the Council's capital. Alongside them marched thousands of volunteers from across the galaxy, united by a shared dream of freedom and equality. As their fleet approached the Galactic Center, Voss addressed his people one final time. "Today, we reclaim our place among the stars, not through fear or domination, but through courage and unity. Let history remember us not as conquerors, but as liberators." Behind him, Quinn monitored the superweapon systems, praying they wouldn't falter. Ahead lay the Council's stronghold and the culmination of humanity's journey from exile to ascension. Quen 2.5 Mach 7.07 M. Certainly. Below is the detailed expansion of Part 4, Mastery, written in the third-person narrative style. This section focuses on humanity's climactic confrontation with the Council, their ultimate decision regarding the superweapon, and the resolution of their journey. Banished from the Council, humanity returned as its master. Part 4. Mastery. The Galactic Center was a dazzling spectacle, a sprawling tapestry of light and energy where stars burned brighter than anywhere else in the universe. At its heart stood the Council's capital, an immense orbital fortress suspended above a shimmering gas giant. Its crystalline spires reflected the brilliance of nearby suns, creating an illusion of divinity that had long been used to reinforce the Council's authority. But today, that illusion would be shattered. The New Dawn Coalition's fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm cloud. Thousands of ships representing dozens of species united under one banner. Humanity's vessels led the charge, their hulls adorned with makeshift insignias symbolizing resilience and defiance. Admiral Cale Voss commanded from the bridge of the Eclipse, his eyes fixed on the glowing monolith ahead. Dr. Alara Quinn stood beside him, her fingers hovering over the controls linked to the partially activated superweapon. The device hummed softly, its energy rippling through the ship like a living force. She could feel its power coursing through her veins, whispering promises of infinite potential and catastrophic consequences. "This is it," Voss said quietly, breaking the tense silence. "Whatever happens next will define us, for better or worse." Quinn nodded but offered no reply. Her mind was elsewhere, replaying fragments of the visions she'd glimpsed while integrating the core fragment. Entire civilizations rising and falling. Timelines unraveling and rewriting themselves. Stars dying only to be reborn. The Etherians' legacy was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, a reminder that some forces were too vast for any species, human or otherwise, to fully comprehend. The final assault, the battle began with a barrage of plasma fire, illuminating the void between the fleets. Council warships unleashed devastating salvos, their weapons cutting through smaller vessels like knives slicing paper. But the Coalition fought with ferocity born of desperation and unity. Rogue AI drones swarmed enemy carriers, disabling shields and opening them up for Velkari boarding parties. Scavenger clans launched kamikaze runs, sacrificing themselves to cripple key targets. Amidst the chaos, Commander Jarek Hale led a daring strike team into the heart of the Council's defenses. Their mission: infiltrate the capital's central command hub and disable its primary shield generator. It was a suicide mission, but Hale accepted it without hesitation. "History remembers the victors," he said with a grim smile before launching his squad toward certain death. As explosions lit up the battlefield, Voss ordered the Eclipse to push forward, drawing the brunt of the Council's firepower. The flagship shook violently under repeated impacts, its crew scrambling to maintain structural integrity. Yet Voss refused to retreat. If humanity was to reclaim its place among the stars, it would do so standing tall. Inside the capital, Zirin watched the unfolding carnage with cold detachment. His operatives had failed to sabotage the Coalition's efforts, and now the endgame approached. He turned to face the chamber containing the ancient superweapon's dormant core, a backup system designed to counterbalance the fragment in human hands. "If they activate theirs, I will activate mine," he murmured to himself. "One way or another, this ends here." Confrontation at the coreback aboard the Eclipse, Quinn analyzed data streaming in from Allied reconnaissance teams. They had located the Council's secondary core deep within the fortress, confirming Zirin's intentions. If both cores were activated simultaneously, the resulting collision of energies could destabilize entire sectors of the galaxy. "We can't let him do it," Quinn told Voss urgently. "If Zirin activates his core, we'll have no choice but to use ours, and the consequences could be catastrophic." Voss clenched his fists, torn between pragmatism and principle. Winning this war required decisive action, yet every fiber of his being rebelled against the idea of wielding such destructive power. "Then we need to stop him before it comes to that." With the battle raging outside, Voss assembled a small strike team, including Quinn, to infiltrate the capital's inner sanctum. Disguised as prisoners captured during earlier skirmishes, they slipped past heavily guarded checkpoints and navigated labyrinthine corridors until they reached the core chamber. There they found Zirin standing alone, his elongated form bathed in the eerie glow of the dormant artifact. Behind him loomed the pulsating core, its surface etched with runes identical to those Quinn had studied for months. "You're too late," Zirin said calmly, raising a hand to initiate activation. "The humans cannot be trusted with this power. Only I can ensure the Etherians never return." "No," Quinn shouted, stepping forward despite the danger. "You don't understand what you're doing. Activating the core won't just stop the Etherians, it'll destroy everything." Zirin paused, his luminous eyes narrowing. "And what would you have me do? Allow your reckless species to gamble with the fate of the galaxy?" "It's not about gambling," Quinn countered, her voice trembling with emotion. "It's about choosing wisely, about finding another way. If we rely on fear and destruction, we become exactly what we're fighting against." For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then, unexpectedly, Zirin lowered his hand. "Perhaps you are right," he admitted, his tone softer than before. "But the choice is no longer mine to make." Before anyone could react, alarms blared throughout the fortress. A massive explosion rocked the structure as Commander Hale's team succeeded in disabling the shield generator. The breach allowed Coalition forces to flood the capital, overwhelming its defenders. A decision. Made in the aftermath of the assault, Voss confronted Zirin once more. The counselor surrendered without resistance, acknowledging that the tide had turned against the Council. As Coalition leaders debated the future of galactic governance, Quinn faced her greatest challenge yet. Standing before the fully integrated superweapon, she wrestled with the implications of activating it. Doing so would grant humanity unparalleled mastery over the galaxy. But at what cost? Would they truly use it responsibly or succumb to the same corruption that had consumed the Council? Finally, she made her choice. With Voss looking on, Quinn disabled the weapon entirely, severing its connection to the core. The hum of energy faded, leaving behind only silence. "It's done," she said, exhaustion evident in her voice. We've proven we don't need to dominate to succeed. We win by working together, not by wielding ultimate power. Voss placed a hand on her shoulder, pride shining in his eyes. You've given us a chance to build something better, something lasting. A new era in the weeks that followed. The remnants of the Council dissolved, replaced by a new alliance led jointly by humanity and its coalition partners. The Galactic Center became a symbol of cooperation rather than oppression, its spires now housing representatives from countless species. Admiral Voss stood aboard the Eclipse, gazing at the stars beyond the viewport. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of peace. Beside him, Quinn worked tirelessly to repurpose the superweapons technology for peaceful purposes, ensuring its legacy benefited all life. Somewhere in the cosmos, faint whispers suggested the Etherians might still watch and wait. But now humanity had earned its place as a master of the galaxy, not through conquest but through wisdom.